17. I'm 80. My first Amish birth had one secret. No one let me question. Don't tell Sarah the baby is turned. She'll only fight us. Ruth says it behind the pantry door, but the latch never catches right, and every word slips through with the smell of lye soap and boiled apples. I'm on the narrow bed in the back room, gripping a sheet so rough it leaves little red squares in my palm. The air is cold, too cold. A lamp burns beside me, its glass chimney marked with one black thumbprint, and my husband, Eli, keeps rubbing the seam of his left sleeve like he can wear a hole through it. He knows something. Ruth knows something. Even my mother knows. I don't. Another pain climbs through me, slow and hard, and someone presses my shoulder back when I try to sit up. Be still, Mama says, softly, like kindness can make a locked door open. I ask what turned means. Nobody answers. I remember the clock saying 2:10. No, wait, it's 2:20, because the long hand covers the little chip by the 4. That tiny mistake matters to me now. It's one of the few things in that room I'm allowed to correct. What did they already know? Why was my fear treated like danger? Why did Eli look away when Ruth reached for the folded white cloth? And why, for 63 years, did I believe silence was the same thing as faith? The bed frame knocks once against the wall. I am 17 years old. Quick pause. My name is Sarah, and this is Rebecca Amish Home. If these stories stay with you, subscribe. It's free, and it lets me keep telling them. Tell me in the comments, when were you taught not to question your own body? And a super chat or membership says, these voices are worth hearing. That keeps this going. Now, back to what happened. What happened next only makes sense if you understand the rule we lived under, though nobody ever called it a rule. A wife's body belonged first to God, then to duty, and only after that, if there was anything left, to herself. I never heard those exact words in church. I learned them from the way Aunt Miriam lowered her eyes when a man entered, from the way Mama folded every question into silence, from the way women said, "The Lord will make a way," when what they meant was, "You will endure it." That's the thing nobody tells you. The rule doesn't arrive written down. It slips into your hands while you knead bread, into your spine while you sit through meeting, into your mouth until even your own pain sounds rude. The shocking part is this. By 17, I had helped deliver 3 calves and knew more about the hips of a cow than the bones inside my own body. I could tell when a mare was in trouble by the way she shifted her back feet. I couldn't tell when I was. It lived in smaller things too. Women washed their own stained linens before sunrise, when the pump handle was so cold it stuck to wet fingers. And nobody asked why someone missed sewing circle twice in 1 month. A glance across the wash line could carry a whole warning. A bowl set down too hard could mean, stop speaking. Once, when I was 14, I asked why Lena cried every time her husband came back from market. Mama stopped peeling a potato and held the knife still above the blue enamel pan. She didn't scold me. She only said, "We don't climb into another marriage." Then she scraped the peel thinner than paper and changed the subject to beans. I nearly asked what happened inside a marriage that no one was allowed to enter, even with words. But Lena was sent to sit alone at the next gathering, and I understood. Questions didn't earn answers, they earned distance. So when Ruth told me to be still, my body knew the command before my mind understood the fear. Ruth was my mother's cousin, though everyone called her Aunt Ruth because she had delivered nearly every baby within 6 miles of our lane. She had square hands, a white scar under her chin, and a habit of counting under her breath while she worked. My mother, Ada, trusted her more than any doctor, and doctors were spoken of like storms, costly, far away, and best avoided unless the roof was already gone. 3 weeks before the birth, my older sister Mary pulled me behind the smokehouse and gave me what counted as preparation, 11 words. I counted them later. Do what Ruth says. Breathe low. And don't shame your husband. That was all. Eli had even less. His father had told him, children came when God opened the door. Nobody explained what the door was, what could go wrong, or what fear might do to two young people alone in a room. We were both ignorant, but only one of us was expected to make ignorance look peaceful. Eli and I had known each other since I was 12 and he was 16. No, 15. I always add a year because he seemed older when he drove the wagon. He wasn't bold. That's what I liked. He'd leave the best apple on the fence post without saying it was for me. And once, during a rainstorm, he walked beside my horse for 2 miles because one stirrup strap had cracked. After we married, he warmed my shoes by the stove on winter mornings and pretended he hadn't. I loved him. I think I loved him. I don't know if I knew what love was yet, but I trusted the quiet in him. In the days before the birth, that quiet changed. He kept asking Ruth whether there was enough lamp oil, whether the road was passable, whether the horse should stay hitched. He asked everything except the one thing both of us needed. What is happening to her, and what should I do if she says stop? The house filled with little rituals that looked like care and felt like a curtain being drawn. Mama boiled cloths in the black kettle until the room smelled of steam and lye. Mary baked 2 loaves even though no one was hungry, and she kept pressing her thumb into the same dent in the dough. Ruth laid out scissors, cord, a tin cup, and a brown bottle with no label. Nobody told me what any of it was for. Women came in, then left when I entered. Their talk ended mid-word. One afternoon I heard Mary say, but last time she nearly, and Mama shut the pantry door. I remember, no, actually, wait. That was the morning before, because snow was still packed in the boot tray. By the night of the birth, it had turned to gray water. I watched it drip from Eli's heels onto the floorboards while the pains came closer, and I knew from everyone's careful faces that something had already gone wrong. The room was the smallest bedroom, the one with the sloped ceiling, and the walnut bed pushed against the north wall. A single oil lamp sat on the washstand, and its flame leaned each time wind found the loose window frame. The quilt beneath me had green squares faded almost yellow, with one dark rust-colored stain near my knee that I kept staring at because it gave my eyes somewhere to go. Outside, a harness ring struck the barn post in the wind. Ting, pause, ting. The room was cold above my shoulders and burning under the wool shift stuck to my back. Eli stood beside the bed in stocking feet because Ruth had told him his boots were dirty, and one sock had a small hole under the big toe. He looked like a lost boy. Not weak, just young. His left hand opened and closed, while Ruth counted, and Mama wrung out cloths that cooled almost as soon as they touched me. Then everything slowed. Ruth pressed both palms against me and told me not to move, though every part of my body was trying to escape itself. Eli leaned close enough that I could smell wood smoke in his beard. Sarah, he said, but nothing came after my name. His breath shook. Mine broke into little sounds I didn't recognize. I reached for his wrist and felt his pulse jumping beneath my thumb. What's turned? I asked again. Ruth looked at Mama. Mama looked at the floor, and Eli said, "You heard her," so softly I almost missed it. Ruth told him to hold my shoulders. He hesitated. "Is that safe?" he asked. No one answered that either. His hands settled on me, like they were asking forgiveness before they'd done anything. I wanted him near me. I wanted every hand gone. Both things were true. A harder pain came, and Ruth said, "Now." Eli held me down because the women he trusted told him that was love in that moment. My jaw locked, my fingers slipped from his wrist and caught the edge of the quilt instead. "Please wait," I said. Ruth answered, "The child won't." There were no choices offered, no explanation, No moment where anyone told me what she believed she had to do. Just pressure, commands, breath, the lamp flame trembling against the wall. Eli whispered, "I'm sorry," once. Then again. His face had gone pale around the mouth. I wanted to pull away and move closer at the same time, because he was the only person in the room who looked as frightened as I felt. That's the thing nobody tells you. When everyone is blind, the kindest person can still become part of the thing that hurts you, not because he wants to, because no one taught him another way. The baby came near dawn, after the lamp had burned low enough to smell scorched. For a few seconds there was no sound, and that silence was worse than every sound before it. Ruth bent over the bed. Mama stopped moving. Eli's hands loosened but stayed on my shoulders, as if he had forgotten how to let go. Then the baby cried once, thin and angry, and the whole room breathed. Someone said, "A girl." Someone else said, "Praise God." I turned my head toward the wall because I couldn't lift it. The wallpaper had a tiny tear shaped like a crooked bird, and I counted its 3 points while they cleaned the child and spoke over me. Eli kissed my hair. I think he was crying. I was too empty to comfort him. Later, when they laid the baby beside me, I noticed a loose green thread on the quilt. I pulled it until the square puckered, then kept pulling, because it was the only thing in that room that changed when I touched it. For years I called that birth difficult, as though difficulty were the whole truth. The plain fact is that neither of us understood what informed choice was, and no one believed I needed information before decisions were made about my body. Ruth knew the baby's position before I did. Mama knew. Eli may have guessed from their faces, but I, the person giving birth, was the last one allowed to understand. The reason sounded holy. Fear might weaken me, questions might make me resist, and a good woman was meant to trust those older than herself. Ruth wasn't cruel. She had been trained by births where women stayed quiet, and survival was counted as proof that the method was right. Eli wasn't cruel either. He followed instructions because he thought obedience could keep me alive. The fact that no one asked me did not feel like a failure to them. It felt like order. I didn't know I could ask for each step to be explained. I didn't know I could say, "Don't hold me down," and have that sentence matter. I didn't know fear could tighten the body, or that calm required truth, not silence. He wasn't trying to hurt me. That's what makes it worse. We were 2 children wearing married clothes, surrounded by adults who had inherited the same sealed box and called it wisdom. The silence wasn't one bad choice made in one cold room. It was built into the lessons, the jokes, the prayers, the way women warned daughters with half a sentence and then turned back to the stove. Decades later, I learned one plain sentence from a nurse. The person in the bed still gets a say. I had to sit down when she said it, and all I could think about was that 17-year-old girl pulling a green thread, waiting for someone to tell her she still belonged to herself. For a long time, no one did. So I learned to leave my body without leaving the room. I would count fence posts through the window, or name every jar on the pantry shelf, or press my heel into the floor until one sharp feeling drowned out all the others. By the time our second child came, I had a whole little system. I folded a washcloth into 4 squares. I watched the lamp. I answered every question with, "I'm fine," because fine was the word that ended questions fastest. And afterward, I scrubbed the same copper pot until my knuckles split, though it was already clean. That was my gift, I suppose. I could make a spotless pan fear for its life. Eli would bring me tea and sit on the edge of the bed, careful not to touch me until I reached first. Sometimes I did. Sometimes I couldn't. I loved him, and I dreaded being needed by him. Both lived in me, shoulder to shoulder. At quilting days, women spoke with their hands and hid with their mouths. The frame would be set near the east windows, where winter light showed every crooked stitch, and 8 of us sat close enough for our knees to touch. One Thursday, Mary jabbed her finger with a needle when Esther said, "He doesn't listen at night." Just 5 words. The room changed. Nobody looked up, but Ruth's thread stopped halfway through the cloth. I almost said, "Mine didn't know how." The words rose right behind my teeth. Then Aunt Miriam asked who needed more coffee, and the moment folded itself away. That's the thing nobody tells you. Silence doesn't always sound like silence. Sometimes it sounds like cups being passed. I saw it then, in the way Mary pressed her thumb over the bead of blood and didn't wipe it away. She knew. Esther knew. We all knew something, but none of us knew enough to name it. Esther's story came out in pieces over 3 washing days. Her husband, Samuel, was gentle with animals and harsh only when he was afraid, which was often after dark. She said he would stand by the bedroom door and pull twice on his right cuff before coming near her. "I go still," she whispered once, while we fed wet sheets through the wringer. That was all. The machine squealed every 7th turn, and neither of us spoke until it squealed again. Esther had asked her mother whether a wife could refuse when she felt unwell. Her mother told her to pray for a softer heart. The next Sunday, the bishop spoke about selfishness without using her name, and Esther sat so straight her back never touched the bench. 4 months later, she stopped bringing questions to washing day. She brought biscuits instead, warm ones wrapped in a blue towel. The silence had corrected her, and it hadn't needed to raise its voice. I was 68 when I first saw the word consent on a white sheet of paper. I'm standing in a county health office with a buzzing light over my head, waiting for a flu shot, and there's a poster beside the drinking fountain. It shows 2 people with a line drawn around each body. Underneath, in thick blue print, it says, "Your body belongs to you. Permission can be asked. Permission can be changed." I read it once, then again. My hands go cold so fast I drop my purse, and 3 peppermints roll under a plastic chair. The nurse bends to help me, but I can't move. One of the peppermints stops beside her white shoe, red stripe facing up. That detail is still clear. I ask her what the sentence means in marriage. She looks at me for a long second and says, "It means the same thing." And then sorry, give me a second. She touches my elbow and asks whether I want to sit. I wasn't angry first. I was sad. So sad it felt like my ribs had become a room with no door. I thought of the girl on the green quilt, the one staring at the torn wallpaper, because grown people had decided truth would make her difficult. I thought of Eli too, 21 years old, though for years I said he was 22. He had been taught that being a good husband meant taking charge when others told him to. We were both prisoners of the same silence, but the bars pressed harder against my skin. That's the thing nobody tells you. 2 people can be trapped in the same place and still be hurt in different ways. I grieved for him. I grieved more for her, for the girl who had no word for choice, no picture of a boundary, no reason to believe fear was information instead of shame. What I mourned most wasn't only what happened. It was what might have happened instead. Someone could have knelt beside the bed and explained the baby's position. Someone could have asked before touching me. Eli could have held my hand because I chose his hand, not my shoulders because someone ordered him to. The room might still have been frightening, but fear shared in truth is different from fear locked inside you. Years later, I tried to explain that to a woman at the library. She frowned over her glasses and said, "Why didn't you just say no?" The clock behind her clicked so loudly I heard each second between us. I told her there was no just where I came from. She meant well. Most people do. But I walked home feeling split between 2 worlds. One that had hidden the door, and one that couldn't understand why I hadn't opened it. And still I carry gifts from that place. I carry the sound of horses before dawn, hooves soft on packed earth, while frost silvered the fence rails. Even now, if I hear leather tack creak in cold air, some part of me is 8 years old again, holding a lantern while Papa checks the mare's shoes. His breath made white clouds, and he always tucked the lantern wick low before handing it back. I carry bread from a wood oven, the crust blistered dark at one corner, and the kitchen windows fogged until Mama drew a little cross in the glass with her finger. And I carry my grandmother's hands at prayer, wide at the knuckles, flour caught in the lines, resting open on her apron as if nothing in heaven needed to be chased. Those things were real. They were beautiful. I miss them. I am homesick for a place that hurt me, and I don't think that makes me foolish. But the harm was real too, silence dressed up as holiness. I can say that now without spitting on every good thing that raised me. Beauty and harm can live in the same house. They can eat from the same bowl, sleep under the same quilt, and sing the same hymn on Sunday morning. I don't have to choose one truth and kill the other. These days, I teach my granddaughters the names of things. I answer the question they actually ask. I knock before entering, even when the door is open, because a boundary can be small and still matter. And sometimes, I make Mama's apple butter in the old copper kettle. I stir it with her wooden spoon, the one burned black along one edge, and I thank her for what she knew, while grieving what no one let her learn. I can still picture her cooling the spoonful on the windowsill for me, blowing across it twice before she said, "Now." Tenderness was there. So was the cage. If you grew up somewhere your own body was kept from you like something dangerous, I see you. If you were taught that obedience mattered more than the warning in your stomach, I see you. You survived something, and surviving is enough. You are not broken because your body remembers what your mouth was never allowed to say. You are not cruel for naming harm in a place you still miss. And you are not ungrateful for wanting the good without carrying the silence with it. That younger part of you may still freeze when someone asks a simple question. She may still search the room for the safest answer. Be gentle with her. She learned those habits to keep you connected, fed, loved, and near the only home she knew. You don't have to shame her for surviving. You can thank her, then teach her something new. To the one still inside, noticing the rules but afraid to name them, your questions are not a sin. To the one who left and dreams about home every night, missing it doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. To the one thinking about leaving, you don't have to solve your whole life before breakfast. To the one who is married and only now finding words for old fear, late truth is still truth. To the one who recognized herself 3 minutes ago and now feels cold all over, put both feet on the floor and breathe. Feel the chair beneath you. Find one blue thing in the room, then one soft thing, then listen for the farthest sound you can hear. You are here. This moment is yours. The old rules may still speak in familiar voices, but they are not the only voices you get to hear now. Wherever you are in this, I see you, and you are not alone. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you felt listening to this, or tell me the sentence you wish someone had given you sooner. Maybe it was, "You can ask why." Maybe it was only, "I believe you." There is so much more I haven't said yet. I'm just getting started. There are stories I haven't been brave enough to tell, but I'm getting closer, one small truth at a time. I still have Mary's blue recipe book, Esther's last letter, and a photograph of Ruth standing beside the walnut bed with one hand hidden in her apron. Each one holds a story I once thought had to stay shut. Subscribe to Rebecca Amish Home if you want to stay for those stories, not because they are easy, but because no one should have to carry them without words. And to the members and Super Chat family, you're the reason the next story gets told. If you want to be part of that, the door is always open. I spent 63 years waiting for permission to belong to myself. I know now that permission was never theirs to give. Your body was always yours.